This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, in the last session, what we discussed, we talked about basic vendor configuration and basic customer configuration, which are the same settings from ECC, correct?
Yes, sir.
We have defined vendor account groups, vendor number ranges, and then the number range assignment to the group. Similarly, customer account group, customer number range, customer number assignment to the group. So these points, whatever we discussed yesterday, are of ECC related settings, which are as it is even in S4HANA. Today we will talk about settings that are related to business partner, which are exclusively applicable for S4HANA system. Okay. For that, we normally prefer SPRO path. Once you are clear with the path, you can navigate through the transaction code. First, let us try to understand the path for business partner related settings. Let me put business partner configuration. What is the path for business partner configuration? Anybody remember? Where we should,
Cross component application.
right. So let me log into S4HANA. Server is not working. Can somebody check if you are able to open S4HANA system?
There is an issue, sir.
Sure. Right?
Hmm. I have an alternate server. Do you want me to share the credentials?
Okay, seems to be some server issue. Okay, let's talk something about this until the server is back. So normally your vendor master creation process. If I talk about this vendor master creation process, we are talking about master data or transaction data. If I talk about vendor master creation, what do I mean? Is it a master record or a transaction record?
Master record. Masterpiece.
It's a master record. Now, any master record that is created in any organization will have strict rules and regulations. Just like that, you are not supposed to create any master record, especially your vendor master and customer master, right? So there are financial implications, financial impact of this. So you are not supposed to just like that create a vendor and place an order to the vendor, and then you end up paying the amount or receiving stock or material services whatsoever from a non-trusted supplier. So before you create any vendor, there will be a thorough investigation or there will be a thorough research done by the procurement team or purchasing team, right? Now, basically, what do we do from a vendor?
We procure goods and services.
Right? From a vendor, you are procuring goods or services. Now, when you are procuring goods or services, does this mean that there is only one supplier in the market who gives the product or a service, or there will be multiple suppliers?
Multiple.
There will be multiple suppliers. Now, who is going to decide which supplier are we going to finalize or which supplier are we going to pick for procuring a particular goods or services? So there is something called a procurement team or purchasing team in every organization,
Yes, sir.
right? Every organization will have procurement team or purchasing team. What they normally do is they will get the requirement from the business that we need to get so and so product or so and so service. So when they get this kind of requirement from the business, let's say they wanted to purchase some laptops, let's say some 30 laptops needs to be purchased. When an organization wants to purchase 30 laptops, now your purchasing team or procurement team, what they will do, they will get to know the various suppliers who will provide the laptops. So first thing what they will do, they will get the exact business requirement. When you say that you want to buy 30 laptops, what kind of laptops do you want to buy, at what configuration? Once they get the clear requirement from the business, they will approach the different suppliers in the market. They will get the various quotations. What do they get?
Quotations.
Quotations.
Different quotations. What will a quotation contain?
It's a quantity and rate and these things are
Quotation basically contains the various features, terms and conditions
conditions.
various terms and conditions that the supplier is giving you. He will say that okay, I will supply 30 laptops and these are the brands that I deal with. Particular supplier may say that okay, I deal with Lenovo, Dell, Toshiba laptops. Another supplier might say I deal with Asus, Lenovo, Dell, or Apple laptop. He might say different brands, and they will tell the different price range. Apart from that, they will tell the time frame for the delivery. We will deliver within a day, or we will deliver in a week's time, or we will deliver in a month's time. If you buy bulk orders, let's say if you purchase 30 laptops, we will give you additional discount. We will give you corporate discount. We will give you extended warranty. Likewise, they will tell different additional benefits or features. Based on that, the purchasing team will submit the sorry, purchasing team will submit the quotations to the finance team. Based on the evaluation of different quotations, finance team will decide, okay, let's go ahead with some ABC supplier. So at that level, a company or an organization decides that okay, we are going ahead with this supplier for purchasing these many laptops or this laptop. Now when you finalize a vendor for purchasing a product, what is the next thing? Order.
Yes, sir.
Once you
Purchase order.
finalize, right, once you finalize the supplier from whom you want to purchase, the next activity is to place an order. Now before you place an order, the first thing that you need to look at is whether the supplier is existing in our system or not. When you say the supplier is existing in our system or not, we are talking about whether the vendor master record is already created or not. Am I correct? This is standard. Whatever we are talking now, this is common across all the organization, irrespective of the system that they are using. I'm not talking from SAP point of view. I'm talking in generic way. Same thing is going to happen even if you are using SAP. So what they will do, they will verify if the vendor is already created in the system or not. If a vendor is already created, they will go ahead and place an order to the existing vendor. What if vendor is not created? What if vendor is not created?
Create the vendor.
Need to
Vendor is
create
not
the
created, we will have to create a vendor. Is it that just like that I found that vendor is not existing in the system? Can anybody go ahead and then create the vendor? Like when we practice, you know that okay, this is the transaction code or this is the screen to create a vendor. You will just like that create a vendor while practicing. But is it the same case in an organization? If a vendor has to be created for a non-existing vendor, will a user log into the system, open the vendor creation screen, just like that create a vendor, or there is a process behind it,
there is a process is
There,
there, sir.
right? Every organization will have a process for creating any new vendor master record. There is something called new vendor approval form or new vendor creation form. What will be there? New vendor creation form or new vendor approval form. So some organizations might follow a digital form. Some organizations might follow an email form, like sorry, offline form, like they will have A4 size sheet which is pre-printed. There the procurement team will have to write all the vendor related information, name of the vendor, address of the vendor, payment terms of the vendor, and who has approved it. All this kind of information is listed on it, and this vendor creation has to be approved from the finance department and also from the purchasing or procurement department. Based on the approvals only, new vendor master record is created in the system. Clear? Based on these
yes, sir.
approvals, new vendor master record is created. Who will create this new vendor master record? Every company will have. If it's a small company, they will have a user who is responsible for master data creation. Okay, if it's a small organization, they might have a user who is responsible for creating vendor master record. In some organizations, like in the big large scale organizations, they will have dedicated MDM teams, which is nothing but master data management teams. Now they also call it as MDG team, master data governance team. So you will have exclusive master data team who are responsible for creation and updation or modification of any master record. So we will have to send an email to the master data team with all the supporting documents. Based on all the supporting documents and the relevant approvals, they will create a vendor master in the system. Okay, once the vendor master is created, you will get a number, which is nothing but your supplier master code or vendor master code, or in S4 HANA, it is also called as BP master code. Clear? Once you have vendor master code, then you are good to go ahead with the transactions. Whether you want to create a purchase order, you want to receive the goods, or you want to raise an invoice, pay the advance, whatsoever, you can proceed only if you have the vendor master record. If a vendor master record is not available, is it possible to initiate any transaction with the supplier in the system?
No, sir.
If vendor master record is not there, it is not possible to initiate any transaction. So you have to keep in your mind that how a supplier master is created in an organization, because most of the times when we practice, we just like that go and create the vendor. But tomorrow, if somebody is asking you how a new vendor is created in your client, let's say you said that you've been working in a project or you've been part of an implementation or whatsoever, they might ask you how a new vendor master is created. When they say they are not expecting the transaction code of a vendor master creation, you talk about FK01, XK01, BP. They will ask you the business process of your client. What process is followed in your client? Now, if you say that I am not aware, I am only aware of the transaction code where it is created, then you do not have any business process knowledge. Right? You're not supposed to project yourself in such a way that you are not aware of the business process, but you are only aware of SAP process. In that way, can you justify that you are an FICO consultant?
No, sir.
Or can you justify that you have sufficient knowledge skill set to become an FICO consultant? No, right? Because you're only talking about SAP perspective. You should talk from SAP perspective, considering business process in your mind. If you're not considering the business process, whatever you talk may not be relevant for my business process. If your SAP process is not corresponding or not in sync, not aligned with my business process, I am not going to be convinced. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Right. So I have to ensure that whatever you're talking is aligned with business process, which most of the organizations follow. Usually, majority of the organizations will have the similar business process, because this is accounting. Accounting is always based on rules. These accounting rules are common, standard across all the organizations across the globe. Is that right? So there will
Yes,
be
sir.
no deviation, and you have to ensure that you are aligned with accounting as far as SAP FICO is concerned. Right? Now, let's say you are now clear with how vendor master is created. So first thing that you have to understand is key information of a vendor master. If you have to create a vendor creation, what is the key information that is needed? Let's say I would say name. What else? Address. What else is required for a vendor?
Ah, Contact email ID.
Right. I'll say contact details. What else? Payment terms. Because at what interval your vendor is looking for payment. Some vendors will tell that, okay, I'll give you 1 month credit period, or I will give you 2 months credit period, I will give you 3 months credit period, which means once I supply the goods or services, you will have 1 month to make the payment, or you will have 2 months, 45 days to make the payment. Some will tell, okay, I will also give you discounts if you are paying me early. If you pay within 30 days or within a month, pay me the full amount. If you are paying within 15 days, you can get 5% discount. So what kind of terms related to payment your vendor is keeping? So that is nothing but your payment terms. What else?
Payment method, sir.
Payment method. When we talk about payment method, we mean what is the mode of payment expected by your vendor, because some vendors will not accept cash, correct? Certain vendors will tell, no, cash payments are not accepted. Even if you go to certain shops, they will tell, no, cards are not accepted. Some vendors will tell, or some shopkeepers will tell you, cash is not accepted beyond a limit. You have to give either through bank or through cash or through DD, correct?
Yes, sir.
So some suppliers will have certain mode of payments. So you have to discuss with them. You need to have clear information on what mode we need to make the payment. Some people will look for check payment. Some people will look for cash payment. Some people will look for bank transfers. So you have to ensure and then put the right information on the vendor master. What else? Then you need bank details of the vendor,
Yes.
right? Which bank your vendor is operating with, so that it will be easy for you to transfer the funds. Any other information? Any other key information? You also have reconciliation account. Which account?
Reconciliation account.
Reconciliation account. And then you also need account group. What is this account group? Yesterday we configured certain account groups, 6 account groups: local vendor, foreign vendor, employee vendor, correct?
Yes. Yes, sir.
So this account group tells you which category this vendor belongs to. Based on the account group, you will decide where you have to show this liability, whether I have to show this liability under my domestic liability or international liability, employee liability, or intercompany liability, because your accounts payable is a liability, current liability. Agree?
Yes, sir.
In your balance sheet, when you're representing the liabilities, you will have to specifically differentiate between various liabilities, various vendor liabilities. The way you have segregated 6 account groups: local, domestic, foreign, employee, intercompany, one time. For each category of a vendor, there will be a specific reconciliation account. If your vendor is part of local, then you will have accounts payable local in your balance sheet. If your vendor is part of foreign, you will have accounts payable foreign in your balance sheet. If your vendor is part of employee, you will have accounts payable employees in your balance sheet. So you need to have clear representation of financials in your balance sheet. For that, you have to ensure correct account group is picked and correct reconciliation account is mapped in the balance, in your vendor master. Clear? Once
Yes,
you
sir.
have this information, then you are good to create a supplier or a vendor in the SAP system. Now, this is common for both ECC or S4 HANA system. There is no rule that a client has to use ECC only or a client has to use S4 HANA only. Irrespective of the version of SAP, let it be ECC or HANA, this is the mandatory information. When you are changing the system from ECC to S4 HANA, your business process is not going to get changed. Your business process remains constant. The only change is from SAP. There may be some slight changes of the screens, transactions, but not on the business process. Am I clear? Right? Do not think that you are working in ECC, it's a different process. You're working on S4 HANA, it's a different process. It is not like that. Right? End of the day, it's your business process which will remain constant. You have to adopt the changes from the technical perspective. When I say technical perspective, on the ECC screen, how vendors are defined. On S4 HANA screen, how vendors are defined. What changes are there? That's it. Only this delta changes or the change proportion is what you have to understand from HANA point of view. Otherwise, it is exactly same what you have done in ECC and what you are going to do in S4 HANA, except some minor changes. Once you have this information, you are good to create a vendor master in the system. Let's say vendor master is created. I'll say vendor master is 101. This is the vendor master number. Some example, this is the supplier code that have been given by the master data team. I'll say this Amazon India. This is my vendor master. Once I have the vendor master, what exactly happens in your accounts payable? What is your starting point of accounts payable? What is the ending point of your accounts payable? In short, what is your P2P cycle or procurement to payment cycle? Most of the P2P cycles will begin from purchase order, correct?
Yes,
Most
sir.
of the P2P cycle begins from what? Purchase,
Purchase.
Purchase order.
purchase order. And this is very important if you are talking about accounts payable. And if you are not aware, if you are not sure, if you are not confident about P2P cycle, sounds very bad. No matter whether you are a consultant, no matter whether you are an end user, if you are an accounting background person or if you are from accounts side, you must know P2P cycle. No matter whether you work in SAP or you do not work in SAP, if you are representing accounting, You must know this. Clear?
Yes, sir.
If I talk about P2P cycle, so usually it might begin from purchase order. Okay, usually this will begin from purchase order, but some also say this also begins from purchase
Requisition.
requisition. Now both are beginning from P.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Purchase order is also starting from P. Purchase requisition is also starting from P. But most of the organizations will go ahead with purchase order onwards, right? So if you have purchase requisition, then you will have quotation, finalization of quotation, then you will come to purchase order. But let us not go ahead with this. This is a little lengthy one, which is not recommended. So usually, even if somebody is asking, you can tell from purchase order onwards. But even if they say, is it starting from purchase order, at that time you can add purchase requisition also. But you must be aware, it also begins from purchase requisition. It can also begin from purchase order, but majority of the cases it will begin from purchase order. Clear?
Clear, sir.
From purchase order, after purchase order, what will happen?
Goods receipt.
Goods receipt. After goods receipt,
Invoices.
invoice receipt. After invoice receipt,
Outgoing payment.
Payment.
outgoing payment. After payment,
Bank reconciliation.
bank reconciliation. This is basically your P2P cycle. Whoever is asking you the question, always make sure you start from purchase order, you will end at bank reconciliation for sure, no matter what, right? So if you are starting from purchase order, if you are ending at invoice receipt, or if you are ending at bank payment, you might get another question, what will happen after bank payment? Or they might ask, is the bank payment last step or last stage of your P2P cycle? There will be nothing after it. Yes, there is one more activity called BRS, or bank reconciliation statement. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Right. So when you're talking about any topic, always take this as a business process, not SAP process. Take this as what process?
Business process.
There's a huge difference. If I talk about SAP process, if I talk about business process, if I talk about SAP process, if I'm talking about P2P cycle, I might talk only about PO, goods receipt, invoice receipt, payment, and BRS. Okay, if I talk about SAP process, I will talk only about this. When I'm talking only about this, I'll put T code of each. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to talk about transaction code of purchase order, transaction code of goods receipt, invoice receipt, payment, BRS, and then data entry process, and then I might talk about output. Output is nothing but your report or the display. How purchase order is created, how you will display the purchase order, how you are creating goods receipt, how you are checking the goods receipt. This may be part of your output. This is what I'm going to talk if we indicate SAP process. Here there is nothing that you learn. This is pure data entry, which is carried out by an end user in any organization. Right? So this is the second stage. This is the which stage? This is your stage 2. This is second stage. What is first stage?
Business process.
What is your first stage? Business process. If I do not have a business process, if I do not know the business process, am I going to do anything with this T code, with the data entry process, output process from SAP?
No, sir.
No.
I know how to create a purchase order. I know how to create GRN. I know how to create invoice. I know how to create payment. I know how to create BRS. I know all the T codes. I know all the fields on the screen. Everything I'm aware. But if I have to explain it, taking an example, will I be able to do it? Will I be able to connect one point with the second point with the third, third with fourth, fourth with fifth? Possible or not possible? If I'm not aware of the business process,
Not possible, sir.
if I'm not aware of the business process, it is practically not possible. Even though I try to explain, I may be right, I may be wrong. That is again a question mark. But in most of your interviews or most of the people who you interact with will expect you to talk from the business process point of view. Your explanation should always be from the business process point of view, so that I feel that you are an experienced candidate or you are aware of the business process. If you are aware of the SAP process but you are not aware of the business process, your SAP knowledge is not going to help me out, because we are not going to talk in the SAP language in a real environment. We are going to talk in the accounting language, because is end user or client is expert of SAP or the consultant is expert of SAP. I'll say client
No, sir.
or user. On the other side, I'll say consultant. My end user client is always dependent on business process or accounting process. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Your client or your business or your user is always going to talk from the business process point of view or accounting point of view. But as a consultant, you're only going to talk about SAP process point of view, because as a consultant, you have been trained or you have been tuned your mindset in such a way the process. If I'm talking about purchase order, first thing that will strike in your mind is transaction code of purchase order. Correct?
Yes, sir.
First thing that will strike your mind is what is the T code of purchase order. If I'm talking about GRN, you will think about what is the T code of a GRN. If I'm talking about invoice, what is the T code of invoice? If I talk about payment, what is the T code of payment? Similarly for BRS, what is the T code of BRS? Now, as a consultant, when you're getting trained or when you're in an organization working for a client, first thing that is coming into your mind is the T code. Am I correct? Which T code do we do this? Consciously or unconsciously, is this what happens in the majority of the cases? Correct? Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
But that is not going to help you if you are only dependent on that level, right? So this SAP process is always dependent on this process. If you are only able to understand, if you are only able to talk from the SAP process, then whatever you are talking may not be understood to your client or to the user. Like your communication or whatever you are explaining may not be convincing your client or your user. Similarly, if your client or user are talking their business process, they will tell that our procurement team will go to the market, they will research, they will find out one vendor, they will come here, they will give me a paper on which they will take the finance manager signature or accounting department signature, procurement head signature. They will give that to me. Based on that, we will raise a PO to the supplier. Supplier will receive the purchase order through email, or supplier will receive the email purchase order information through call. Something like that, they're talking their purchasing process. Now, if you are aware of the T code configuration from SAP, as a consultant, are we going to understand whatever is explained by your user client from the accounting side or from the business process side? No, right? Again, there is a communication gap. Again, we are confused. Yes, no? Your client is
Yes, sir.
explaining their business process, which is happening in their organization. Your client will always talk about their business process, their organization process or rules. Now, as a consultant, you must be in a position to understand what your client is talking about, because your client is always going to explain you their business process, keeping accounting in mind. In short, from the accounting language, they will explain the business process. As a consultant, when I say as a consultant, I mean as a FICO consultant. You must be in a position to understand their business process and put their business process in the SAP process. Clear? Understand their business process and map it in SAP process. Now, is it straightforward that you can do things in SAP, or it is dependent on the business process?
Dependent, sir.
Depends on
Right?
business process.
It depends on business process. If I'm not clear with my business process, or in the other words, if I'm not clear with my client requirement or my business requirement, whatever the knowledge I have, whatever the screens configs that I am aware of, I may not be able to utilize it properly. I have to utilize my skill set. I have to utilize my knowledge in a proper way to meet the business requirement of the client. That is possible only when you are able to understand the requirement, and then you are able to map this requirement into SAP according to SAP process. Clear? Now, let's say we understood that business process is needed before you get into SAP process. I'll tell that this is my business process. Okay, I'll tell we are following the standard P2P cycle, wherein we will raise a purchase order followed by goods receipt, invoice receipt, payment. As usual, we will do BRS. Your client is telling, no, sir, we have standard accounting process which is normally followed in the other organizations. Same like PO, GR, invoice, payment, BRS. Fine. Okay, when you're creating a purchase order, okay, when you're creating a purchase order is created against a vendor or purchase order is created against a customer.
Vendor, sir. Against the vendor.
Purchase order is created against a vendor. When purchase order is created against a vendor, now when you're purchasing, your purchase will have a monetary value or non-monetary value. When I say you are purchasing, whatever the item that you are purchasing or whatever the service that you are purchasing, will it have a monetary value or no?
It's monetary value.
Right, your purchase order will have monetary value. Let's say if you are purchasing a material, material will have some value. If you are purchasing a service, your service will have some value. Yes, no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes,
Now
sir.
when I am purchasing, when I am purchasing when I am purchasing, I can purchase material, correct? Is
Yes.
this correct? Can I purchase a material?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Can I purchase assets?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Can I purchase services?
Yes, sir.
No, sir.
Possible
No,
or
sir.
not? I cannot purchase service.
We cannot, sir.
Why?
Services are rendered.
We can purchase.
Let's say you are using ACs. Okay, in your organization you have ACs. Now for AC, you need some maintenance, annual maintenance, maybe AC gas filling up or some kind of cleaning.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Now for that, are you going to purchase a new AC or are you going to call the AC technician to do the cleaning or the related activities to the AC, existing AC? He will do the cleaning and then the other related activities,
Yes.
gas
Yes, sir.
filling or whatsoever. What is it called? It is called a service. You're not
Yes, sir.
purchasing anything physically, right? He is coming and doing some service which you cannot see. There is no value addition to it, right? So that is again you have to place an order. That is again a kind of purchase,
Yes, sir.
right? So
Yes.
service is also a purchase. Assuming these three are the major type of purchases that an organization will do. Now, when you're talking about material, it's a material purchase. When you're talking about asset, it's a fixed asset purchase. When you're talking about service, it's a normal service purchase. Now, this is called as material PO. What PO?
Material
Material
PO.
P.
Material PO. What is material PO? Material PO is created for purchase of material. Purchase of material or stock.
Yes.
Or
Goods.
this is also called as your inventory. Material PO, stock PO, or inventory purchase order. Next one, asset. When I'm talking about asset PO, I'm talking about fixed asset. Clear? Land, building, plant, machinery, furniture, softwares, licenses, motor vehicles, cars, computers. These are all your fixed assets. Correct? Agree?
Yes, sir.
When I'm talking about services, these are all basically expenses. These are all what? Expenses like services, repairs,
Yeah. Electricity.
consumables, right? So usually you can call it as expenses, services, repairs, consumables. Now, these are again called as, I call it as stock PO, I call it as capex PO, call it as opex PO. Clear? Now, so far we've been talking only about purchase order. But if you get into the purchase order, you are able to see different points from the purchase order,
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
right? Now you are able to see that, okay, your purchase order is used for purchasing material, purchasing asset, purchasing service. If you purchase material, this is called as a stock PO. If you are purchasing an asset, that is called as capex PO. If you are purchasing any service, that is called opex PO. Now, when you are purchasing like this, your purchase value can be anything,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Every purchase will have some
Different
value.
value. Yes, sir.
There has to be some limitation or there has to be some restriction validation. Let's say if I am planning to purchase something, my value can be 1 rupee and my value can be unlimited, any number. Agree? But there has to be some restriction, limitation, control in the system,
Yes, sir.
right? Let's say if my purchase value, in short, PO value 1 to, let's say some 2000, 1 to 2000. I mean value 1 to 2000. Let's say 2001 to 10,000. Then I'll say 10,000 one to 50,000. Likewise, I may have some breakup range, my purchase value.
Yes, sir.
Now, if value is 1 to 1,000, no approval needed. No need to approve anybody. You can directly place the order, purchase whatever you want. But if my order value, if my purchase value is from 2,000 to 10,000, approval required. Right? Somebody should authorize this.
Yes, sir.
Correct? Someone should approve
sir.
that, okay, to go ahead. Similarly, for every value, there is some approval mechanism. So this is called your PO approval matrix. What is this called?
PO approval
PO
matrix.
approval.
PO approval matrix. This is called as release strategy. What is this called?
Release
PO
strategy.
PO release strategy. When I talk about PO release strategy, it is nothing but the PO approval matrix. Who will have to approve? Now, when I'm talking about approval metrics, when I'm talking about release strategy, I am talking about at how many levels this PO will have to be approved. Should my PO be approved by one person or two persons or three persons or 5%? So depending on my business requirement, I will have to tell you this. Now, all this, even though these points sound like these are all related to MM module, but as a FICO consultant, you must be aware of this. And everybody must have heard something called FIMM integration, FISD integration,
Yes, sir.
right? These two topics are must for a FICO consultant, and these two topics are to be discussed in every FICO interview, irrespective of your experience level, whether you are zero experience or you are n number of years of experience. These two topics are mandatory as part of your discussion. And whatever we are talking now, most of the parts are part of your FIMM integration. It is just that you may not be configuring this in the system because this may be part of MM module config. But as a finance person, as a FICO consultant, you must be very good at, you must be very clear with the process flow. Okay.
Okay,
If
sir.
you're lacking here, if you're unable to explain the process, then the chances of getting negative feedback is more. The feedback that they give from your interview is the candidate is not good at understanding the business process. Candidate is good at SAP. Candidate is good at SAP. When I say candidate is good at SAP, he's technically sound, he's technically good. He's aware of what is purchase order, T code and all. But from the business point of view, from the business process point of view, he is weak. He is not able to explain the business processes. He is not able to understand the business cases that I am explaining, or he is not able to give me the examples along with some practical cases. They will ask you, give me one example, give me a scenario wherein you worked on FIMM integration, or what kind of issues are probable or possible from the purchase order point of view. You will be able to answer these kind of questions only if you are aware of the process. Whether you worked on it, whether you configured it, whether you have seen this on the system or not is secondary. First point, at least when you talk, when you explain the process, it has to be convincing enough. When I say the process is convincing enough, I mean whatever you are explaining is supposed to be whatever is followed or whatever is executed in an organization. Make sure you are talking the process which is followed in an organization. Clear? I can easily make you understand. I can easily make you work on my project by giving you the documentation. If you're not clear with the how purchase order is created, I'm fine with you. I will tell you this is the document, this is the screenshot of this, this is the T code. If you go to this T code, these are the fields. Here you need to put vendor, here you need to put customer, or here you need to put a date, quantity, material, amount, cost center, whatsoever, so that anybody can understand, because it's a data entry. 1 2 times if you see the screen, everything will get into your mind. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
But if you are not good at what is purchase order, you are telling me that okay, purchase order, I know I've created 100 purchase orders. We need to put vendor number at the top, and then we need to put purchase order, this, that, material number, item number, value, tax code, all this. But give me a case where an organization wants to place an order. What exactly happens? What information is needed for you to create a purchase order? Can I straight away raise a purchase order to a vendor? Or if my vendor is already existing in the system, what is the process? If a vendor is not there in the system, what is the process? If you have been given questions like this, or if you have been asked questions like this, you should have the answers. Because do not think the person in your interview will ask you questions straightforward. You will be questioned from the business process point of view. You will be questioned from scenario based. When I say scenario based, I mean if I am your interviewer, I am simply going to ask you, can you explain the P2P cycle? If I tell you that, can you explain me the P2P cycle? If you are straight away going ahead with purchase order, GRN, invoice, payment, BRS, if you are quite, I'm not happy with you. I'm not convinced, because these 5 points everybody is telling, correct? Huh? Everybody is telling same points, 5 steps.
Yes.
You're also telling me
Yes.
the 5. But what is the difference that I find you, that I will shortlist you, that I will write a feedback that this candidate is better than the other candidates? For you to achieve that, you have to talk something which is not explained by the others, which means you have to develop your own content. When I say you have to develop your own content, try to talk in a generic way. When I say try to talk in a generic way, try taking a simple example. Instead of explaining the process by purchase order, this, and all, try to take an example. Let's say, if let me explain my purchase P2P cycle with a simple example of my previous client or whatsoever of a business case. Let's say an organization wants to place an order for XYZ vendor for so and so material. Then you will tell that what happens, how purchase order is created, it will have release strategy, approval metrics, all this. When you are telling, the other person immediately gets an impression that yes, you are aware of the practical process of P2P cycle. You are not only explaining me the steps, transaction codes, but also you are explaining the business scenario. Then what they will do, the person will start questioning from your answers immediately. Whatever you're answering, you will get questions from your answers. If I tell that the company wants to place an order for, let's say, same example that we discussed, 30 ACs or 30 laptops, they will create the purchase order. Is purchase order created directly? Then I'll put a question. Then you are now taken this point from a question to a discussion, right? Now you have raised a point which has been converted into a discussion from my question. So you should develop that skill set. You should develop that skill set so that on majority of the topics you are able to communicate. When I say you are able to communicate, we are able to discuss. Okay, this is how it happens. This is how it happens. This may be the requirement. This may be the requirement. If this is the requirement, this is how we will do it. If these kind of problems are coming, these problems may be because of these reasons. All these are possible only when you are at least aware of the basic business process. If you're not aware of basic business process, these points are all straight away ruled out. Wherever you go, how much ever you practice on the system, when it comes to interview, when it comes to a discussion with another person of FICO who worked on SAP, you will be ruled out because you have no answers to convince the other person except transaction code configuration. So do not depend on it. Clear?
Clear, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, so when you say that there is something called purchase approval metrics release strategy, which means your purchase order will have to be approved by the different people. Once purchase order is approved, you will be receiving. Once PO is approved, what will happen? GRN.
Yes, sir.
What is GRN? What is the full form of GRN?
Goods receipt note.
Goods receipt
Receipt note.
note. Whenever you do a GRN or whenever goods receipt note is done, okay, whenever goods receipt note is done, how many records are updated?
2, sir.
2 records will get updated. What are those 2 records?
Goods receipt and inventory.
No. Only one is correct from your 2. One is
Inward
your
and outward.
inventory or stock quantity. Okay. One point is your inventory and stock quantity is updated. On the other side, inventory or stock value. Correct? Huh?
Yes, sir.
Existing value. Let's say I have currently 100 laptops. Each laptop, let's say 50. Assuming this is the um, 45 lakhs is the value of my inventory currently. Okay, this is my current inventory value. Now I am doing a purchase of how many laptops? 30.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
no. Now these 30
Yes, sir.
laptops will have some value,
Yes, sir.
right? I'm not going to get these 30 laps as gifts, right? These are not my gifts. These are something that I'm purchasing.
Yes.
Nobody is gifting me this. I am purchasing it, which means this is having some value. Let's say I am purchasing this 30 laptops for 8 lakhs or some 12 lakhs. Now after this purchase, there will be new values. My stock will become how much?
130 stock.
30 laptops.
130 laptops, it should become inventory
57 lakhs.
57 lakhs. Is this correct?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Is this correct? Now, is your stock quantity 100 laptops or 130 laptops, whatever? Is this shown anywhere in your financials? Do you show stock quantity in your financials?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Where do we show this stock count?
Stock availability.
Is it part of your financials or logistics?
Financials.
Logistics.
This is part of your logistics. Okay. This is part of your logistics. Quantity of your material is always part of your logistics. Value of your material is always part of your finance. Okay, so in logistics they will have stock report or inventory report, aging report. What are all these reports from the logistics side? If you look at any supermarket, for an example, if you look at any product on any tray, you will find the product placed in a sequence order. Let's say if I look at, let's say, soaps, or if I look at, let's say, biscuits. Okay, I'm looking at biscuits, I mean biscuit packets. Let's say I have 4 in the tray. Now this may be expiring 2023, this may be expiring 2023, this may be 24, this may be 25. Now normally whenever you look at the stock in any supermarket, the first one that you look at, which is appearing to you, will it be recent expiry date or latest expiry date? I mean the old expiry
Recent,
date.
recent expiry dates.
Agree everybody?
Yes.
The one which is going to expire soon will be the first one. The one which is going to expire later will be the last one. They'll put that stock at the end because they want to clear out the stock on FIFO basis, first in, first out, majoritarily.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Majoritarily they want to. Otherwise, if everybody is looking at this, everybody will take the latest manufactured and then oldest expiry date. Right? Why will somebody purchase this one when it is about to expire this year itself? But instead I want to buy something which will expire in 2024 or 25. Am I correct?
Correct.
Right? Now these are all part of your logistics, and all these are made based on your aging report. Which aging report? Inventory aging report or stock aging report. Now all these points might come up in your discussions, in your interviews, in your projects, in your work, in your discussions, anywhere. But you must be at least aware of what is what. At least one line basic point you must understand. Only then you will be able to at least manage or communicate. Otherwise you will simply have to go blank stating, no, I'm not aware of it, I've not worked on it. Majority of the questions that you get to know from your interview or that you hear from the people who have attended interview, they will simply tell that no, it is very tough. They asked questions out of syllabus. To be frank, there is no syllabus for your SAP FICO. The syllabus for SAP FICO is your business process. If you are able to understand the business process, you can easily clear SAP FICO interview. The point is we prepare only SAP FICO course content and then we go to interview. That is where we get rejected, because most of the points that are asked in your interview are not part of your course content. Your course content is purely based on SAP configurations, SAP settings, SAP functionalities. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Right? In every course content, they'll put create company, chart of account, fiscal year, FIMM integration, this, that, and all. But inside, there is a process, business process. That is where you have to focus on. If you are able to focus on at that level, if you are at least able to manage 10% of each business process, easily you can crack any interview, no doubt in it. All right, now from this you understood that the stock is arranged in a systematic way. For that you have to have the proper logistics module implemented, which is nothing but EMM. Logistics nothing but which module? EMM module.
module.
Finance
Mm.
nothing but FI
FICO.
module. Okay, Now here what we will do, you will update your balance sheet. Which one? Which report?
Balance sheet.
Your inventory is part of a P&L or balance sheet?
P&Ls.
Inventory.
Balance sheets.
Your, your inventory is not part of P&L. Your inventory is part of balance sheet. In your P&L, you are only going to add the inventory movement. In P&L, you are capturing your material movements, like whether stock is coming in or going out, receipt and consumption. But what is the value of my stock? Is always my closing stock. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Whenever you
Yes, sir.
prepared your P&L, you will write now. Since this came, one more point that you'll have to understand. Let's say you have been explaining properly all the processes, but I might ask you another question in your interview out of my curiosity, that what is the financial impact of your material? Where do we represent stock? If you are answering that P&L, then gone. Whatever the impression I had is gone, because you are able to explain me everything process wise, but when I ask it from the accounting point of view, you're completely wrong, which means I can easily figure out that you by hearted the content or you have mugged up the content, right? You have written somewhere or you have read somewhere, somebody explained you are explaining to me, but you are not able to convince me from financial point of view, from the accounting point of view when asked. This is again a problem. This is where majority of the people will get rejected, but they will never realize this, right?
Yes, sir.
Now in P&L, what you will do, you will put opening stock, you will add purchases, you will less sales, and then you will come to know closing stock. Is this correct?
Yes,
Correct, sir.
correct.
Am I correct? If I
Yes,
say my
correct.
Yes, sir.
opening stock is 1000 rupees, I purchased 300, I sold 400, and what will be the closing stock? So 1000 is my opening, I purchased 300, so my stock has become
9,
1300. Out of 1300, I have sold 400. 1300 minus 400,
900.
900. You are doing this in P&L only to find out P&L. You're doing this only to find out P&L. Now this closing stock is represented in your balance sheet. In your balance sheet, you will have assets. Under assets, you will have current assets. Under current assets, you will have inventory or stock. This is where you are going to write 900. Clear?
It's clear, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Clear.
So if you are unable to explain at this level, if you are asked, you are upfront rejected, because this is the basic fundamental of accounting. If you are not able to understand this, no matter how good or how best you are explaining me the process on my interview, I am not going to consider it. Only because of one reason, you are not aware of the financial impact of stock, where it is represented in the financials. If it is P&L, they might ask you why is it coming in P&L. If it is balance sheet, they might ask why only in balance sheet. Should we put this in P&L also? Yes, you are able to see this 900 both on P&L and balance sheet,
Yes, sir.
right? So if they are asking you cross questions like this, you must be in a position to at least interact, convince them. This does not require your SAP skill set. This only requires basic accounting knowledge. Agree? If you have this basic accounting knowledge and you are able to explain SAP points, you do not have to look back. and everybody will tell that he is good to go. Everybody will tell that I'm okay with this candidate. So why they are telling that he is okay with the candidate? Because he felt that you are good at accounting and you are also good at understanding the business process. On SAP, whatever you do in any project is a copy paste work. You will have all the reference documents. If you want to configure accounts payable, you will have accounts payable configured documents of previous projects, right? Let's say, for an example, you are working on accounts payable configuration. You're working on accounts payable configuration. For this, what you need to do the configuration in a project, you need BBP. What is BBP?
Business blueprint.
Business blueprint. Now this BBP has become old word now. Now this BBP is also called as another term. What is that another term? SDD. What is SDD? Solution Design Document. Some call it as BBP, which is your business blueprint. Some also call it as SDD, which is your solution design document. Majorly, when you talk from the S4 HANA point of view, we no longer use, or we rarely use BBP term. Instead of BBP from S4 HANA point of view, we will be using SDD document. What is SDD?
Solution design document.
Solution design document. Now, if you are not able to answer these points, but you are able to answer all the points, AP, AR, integrations, everything you are able to tell me, but you are not able to answer what is BBP, what is SDD, how these are part of it and all, then you are gone. Again, you are rejected. This time also not because that your explanation of accounts payable is wrong. Your explanation of accounts payable configuration is perfect, but you are not able to convince me from the consulting point of view, from the business point of view. That is what I am looking from you, and that is where you are lacking at. Getting my point? Why most of the people will get rejected in the interviews? Because they are good at SAP, they are good at configuration, they are good at creation, they are good at reports, explanation, everything, but they are not able to explain it with business process from a consulting point of view. Because of this reason, most of the people will get rejected, especially the trained candidates. Okay, now if I tell you that if you are working in my project and then I assign you a task of configuring basic accounts payable, what will you do? How will you proceed? So some people will straight away start with, I will create configuration, create account groups, this, that, and all. Account group, this T code, number range, this T code, assignment, this T code, BP number, this T code, and all. But you're wrong. Upfront, I come to know that you are a trained candidate or you are a inexperienced candidate. In short, fake candidate. Why? Because that is not something which we do in a project. That is something that you do in a training environment. You're upfront telling me whatever you have learned from your training. You're able to understand what I mean, what I'm saying,
Yes, sir. Can-
right? So you have to create that impact when you're talking. If you're unable to create that impact when you're talking, you will get rejected. But according to you, you will not understand that why you have been rejected, because you will only think, you will only compare. He asked me accounts payable configuration. I said accounts payable configuration, vendor account group, vendor number range, assignment, recon account, BP, this, that, and all. Everything is correct. My T code is correct, my sequence is correct, my example is correct, but something is missing. That missing something is something that you will not understand unless you are focused on what is to be done from a consulting point of view, what exactly you will do as a consultant in a project. Straight away, you are not supposed to get into configuration of any topic in SAP. Clear?
Clear, sir.
If you get into straight away any topic of configuration in SAP, you will be able to complete within 45 days. You will be able to complete within 60 days. You will be able to complete within 90 days. But that 90 days knowledge or 45 days knowledge or 60 days knowledge is not going to give you the job, is not going to give you the knowledge that will help you clear your interview. Because tomorrow when you are entering the market, you have to project some experience, or you have to act like you have an experience. Agree?
Yes, sir.
So that is not something that you will get within 45 days, within 60 days, within 90 days. Practically not possible. So you have to stick to reality. You have to think practically. Clear?
Clear, sir.
Right. Now, when you have this business blueprint solution design document, now let's say you are not aware of this, you are not aware of the configuration, but you are aware of what is the business process. I'm fine with it. As long as you are able to understand what is accounts payable, the flow of accounts payable, I'm very good with you. Because when you do a configuration, I will give you reference document. What I will give you?
Reference document.
When I say reference document, I mean previous project document. Let's say you are working for some ABC company. You're working for some ABC company. You can fill that ABC with any name. You're working for some ABC company as a FICO consultant. You are a new joinee. You're a new joinee of ABC consultant, and you have been assigned to the accounts payable configuration of an implementation project. Now what I'll do, I want you to do the configuration. Now you have to be aware of the basic points that a consultant will do in a project. These basic points do not mean the configuration. These basic points do not mean configuration anywhere. When I say, I do not mean account group creation, number range creation, assignments. I do not mean this. I don't want you to know this. Right? I don't want you to know this. If you are aware of this, I am fine. But when you are in a project, I want you to know that these are created based on a document called a business blueprint, and this business blueprint along with contain another document called KDS, key data structures. Clear? From these documents, you are able to understand the current process of your client. Accordingly, you will get a previous project document or some reference document from your project member only. Maybe your lead or your manager will give you, this is how we have to do. Why they will give you that? Because you need to prepare config document. What you need to prepare?
Configuration document.
You have to prepare configuration document, which means whatever you are doing, you have to document step by step, including the IMG path, SPRO, IMG, financial accounting, accounts payable, receivable, vendor accounts, whatever it is. Until the transaction code, you have to write. Below that, you have to take the screenshot of the data that you have added. Unless I give you a reference document, you will go and create in your own format. Correct? How will
Yes,
you
sir.
know that which format I want unless I tell you? Am I correct?
Correct, sir.
For which what I'll do, I'll give you a reference document. of previous project or some other project. What you are going to do, you are going to use the same document, same format, except the data changes. Let's say if that document is having accounts payable configuration or configuration document of ABC project, you are going to replace ABC project with XYZ project. Creation of vendor account groups. Here also creation of vendor account groups. You are not going to change anything. IMG path, whether it is for ABC client or whether it is for XYZ client. Is your path going to change?
No, sir.
SAP path will change for ABC client and then XYZ client, or it is the same?
Remains same, sir.
It will remain same. So I'm not going to modify it. I'll keep it as it is. T code. If it is OBD3, here also OBD3,
Yes.
right? Now for the ABC client, let's say they have 5 account groups. For ABC client, you are now creating 6 account groups. Their 5 groups, names, codes may be different. For your 6 groups, name, code are definitely different. So what I'll do, I'll add 6 groups of my new project. I will take this screenshot, put in the document. Correct?
Yes.
Even if you are not aware, that document itself will tell you what to do, how to do. You do not have to ask anybody. But there are certain points where you are not supposed to ask, which you will be asking. That is where you will get caught red-handedly. Right? So you have to get this confidence from the beginning itself. It's not something that you can gain, tune your mindset at the end. Highly not possible, highly impossible. The only possible thing is you will have to give up SAP. Many people give up SAP for this reason. Right? They have all the knowledge, but they do not have the knowledge that they can utilize in a project, that they can talk to a person, or that they can clear an interview. Because to clear an interview, your SAP configuration knowledge is only 10%. The remaining 90% is something which is beyond your configuration on SAP screen. Clear? It's only 10% I'm telling you. The remaining 90% is beyond your configuration. You can still clear your interview even though you're not talking about your configurations, T codes and all. When I say config, I mean T codes. Nobody is going to ask you, tell me the configuration of accounts payable. Nobody will ask you. Why will they want to know from you? Account groups, OBD3, number range, XKN1 assignment, OBAS reconciliation, FS00, this. Nobody wants. So they want you to explain it with business process. That business process is nowhere called as configuration. Your configuration is completely dependent on business process. So how you are going to map these two is what your skill is, what the mindset that you are going to develop. Clear? Any question?
Sir, Chandan here, sir. I have a doubt.
Yeah.
Sir, in the upside page, you have like shown the AP process like flow, right, sir? PO and GRIR and invoice receipt. That will come in the same integration also, right, sir? So,
Yes,
what's
this
the
is part
difference
of your
between,
integration.
yeah, what's the P2P cycle? What's the difference between integration and this AP process? Coming to this flow, is one and the same, or else we can see any difference on it?
It is the same. There is no difference. I've not mentioned FIMM integration because I do not want you to know this as integration. I want you to know this as accounts payable process or P2P cycle process.
Okay, sir.
Okay, it is the same. but we are not writing that FIMM integration because I don't want you to inject in your mind as integration, FIMM integration. Only in SAP you are calling this as FIMM integration process.
Got it.
But
So
for a
in the
client,
interview, yes, sir.
for a company, if they are not using SAP, if you are attending an interview of Oracle or Tally or any other IT application, but if somebody is asking about accounts payable or P2P cycle, this is the process. Same thing is in SAP, but in SAP we add another term called FIMM integration. So that
Got it, sir.
FIMM integration happens only at this place because the term is FIMM integration.
Yes, sir.
The term we are using FIMM integration. So this is a place where finance and logistics are combined. So your finance and logistics are combined during GRN and invoice posting. Where is your finance and logistics are combined? They are combined during GRN and invoice posting. For this, you have to maintain FIMM integration setting. In short, you will be mapping accounting entry, debit and credit is mapped in FIMM integration by FICO consultant. That's it. Rest and all is taken care by your consultant. It's a single T code. This is a single T code task by a FICO consultant. What is that single T code? OBYC. When you talk about FIMM integration, as a FICO consultant, you are only going to work on one transaction code called OBYC. That's it. Nothing beyond that you do from FIMM integration. But your involvement is there throughout the process. For you to map this accounting entry debit and credit, you must know what is purchase order. What are you purchasing in your order? Are you going to purchase material or are you going to purchase asset or service? If material, what kind of materials do you have? Raw material, finished material, packing material, scrap material, semi-finished material. Asset, what kind of asset do you purchase? Similarly, services, what kind of services do you have? And where do you want to take this financial impact accounting? Which account do you want to use? Is it a P&L account or is it a balance sheet account? If it is a P&L account, what about your cost center, profit center, all the other account assignments? So for you to understand all this, no other option, you must start from purchase order. You cannot say that no, in FIMM integration, as a FICO consultant, I did only OBYC, GL account determination. They might put a question straightforward on what basis you have decided this is the debit account, this is the credit account. You cannot say client had given me the GL account mapping. Then they will put one more question, how did your client know which account to be mapped in SAP? Your client is not aware of FIMM integration, am I correct? He has to be
Yes,
explained by somebody. Now, who will have to explain? Again, a consultant will have to explain. So your involvement is there from the beginning, right from purchase order until bank reconciliation statement. As a FICO consultant, you must involve and you must know the whole process, the complete cycle. right? This P2P cycle, this FIMM integration is a question majoritarily to the FICO consultants, not to the MM consultants, right? This question is part of your FICO interviews, not part of MM interviews, correct? This
Correct,
FIMM
sir.
integration is FICO interview question, and everybody will expect you to talk from purchase order onwards. And when you are talking from the purchase order onwards, right from the purchase order itself, you try to put these points. Put these points. Stock PO, non-stock PO, capex PO, opex PO, what accounting entry will come, what is approval metrics. By talking all this, you are representing the business process that was used in your previous project. It is not something that you're telling something which you have not been taught in your interviews or in your trainings and all. When you're in an interview, you are talking as if you have worked in a project, as if you have seen the process in an organization. Because in any organization, this is what happens. And you are supposed to talk the same process which happens in an organization. Agree?
Yes, sir.
Right? If you're not talking these points, if you're telling only the base points which you majorly find at every source, like PO and all, how PO is created and all, upfront I came to know that you are a trained candidate or you do not have the real-time experience because of your way of explanation, because of the kind of examples that you are giving. Because my intention of question is different, but your answer is different. There is no sync. When I say there is no sync, I am not convinced. I know you're talking about FIMM integration, but which is not convincing enough. If you find a person who is okay, if you talk from the SAP point of view, fine. You're a lucky person. But what if the other person is not okay? The other person wants you to know the business process. That is where you will have tough time clearing the interview, right? So always look at the tough time of your interview and prepare accordingly. If the other person is only fine with your basic SAP knowledge, anybody clear that interview. There's nothing new in it. But in your interview, always remember you will have TR, you will have MR, you will have HR. What is TR?
Technical.
I'm talking from interview point of view. Okay.
Yes.
What is your TR?
Technical round.
Correct. Technical round. MR,
Managerial round.
HR, HR, human resources round, or I'll
Yes.
simply put HR round. This is easy. Anybody can easily clear because here it's all about your salary, notice period, other benefits discussion. In your TR, in your technical round, configs, SAP knowledge, business process, experience, etc. will be checked. In short, it's all about your SAP technical. I might ask anything. I might only ask configuration. I might ask which project you worked before. Tell me about your experience. What is your client business process? I might ask anything purely technical. In your managerial, it's only about experience, business process, scenarios. Do you have configurations in your MR?
No, sir.
Where do you find your configurations? Only in TR?
Yes.
Only in your technical round you will be questioned about your configurations. Once you're on the managerial round, that is where you get tricky questions. They are not even going to look at your resume in detail. They will only check at high level. Okay, this candidate is of 6-year experience. Okay, he worked in 4 companies. Okay, he worked for 6 clients. Okay, tell me what was your role in your previous project? What is your current role? If you are working in support project, what kind of issues you are currently working on? Tell me some support incidents you handled in the last month. Did you work on this? Did you work on that? Okay, if this is the situation, how will you react? If this is the business process, if your client is not agreeing to this process, how will you convince your client? If you have to conduct a workshop or a demo session to your client, what is your approach? How do you conduct a workshop for a client for a business process? How do you demonstrate a new process to the users? They might ask the questions like this, which is nowhere related to your configurations. But if we are preparing only on the configuration part, is it possible to convince, is it possible to answer these kind of questions in a convincing way?
Yes, sir.
Is it possible if you're not aware of this, if you have not worked practically on a real environment, business processes,
No, sir.
cases, scenarios? Either you should have worked or you should have been aware of this, because you're talking as if you've worked on it, and you're talking as if you will react exactly like this if you're given a chance. So your answer should never be generic. Your answer should not be what? Generic. When I say your answer should not be generic, do not tell that this is how you do it. Always tell in such a way, this is how you did it. Talk to me in such a way that you worked on this in your previous projects or in your previous assignments. Not that, okay, we have to do this, we have to maintain this setting, we have to maintain this setting, we have to maintain this setting. Simple question, if I tell that tell me about accounts payable config. I'm asking you to explain me about accounts payable configuration. Now I can explain you in a generic way to do the accounts payable configuration in SAP. First we have to define account groups, and then we have to define number ranges. We have to assign number ranges. We have to create reconciliation GL account, business process settings, and then business process assignment, customer vendor integration. We have to create master data, transaction data, testing, unit testing, UAT, TR, all this. I am fine. I'm correct everywhere. But if I'm telling like this, am I talking in a generic way how it has to be done?
Yes, sir.
Right? I'm telling in a generic way how this configuration is to be done. But this is not expected from you in an interview. If the same question is asked, try to tell that I have configured accounts payable in my previous project or in my previous assignments. For if you are showing experience, take out any one client name. Let's say in your resume you have some ABC customer or ABC company. Tell that I worked on accounts payable configuration in my previous project for ABC company, wherein they had 6 account groups. We have created 6 account groups and put everything in such a way that we have created 6 account groups for this ABC company, and then we had created number ranges. Client wanted number range like this, so we have created like this. We have assigned, we have created 6 reconciliation accounts, each reconciliation account for every account group to have proper representation in our balance sheet. Likewise, if you are explaining, now the other person will stop you in the middle, he'll go to the next question, because the way you are explaining made me understood that you are good at the subject, you have worked on it. Agree? There will be a huge difference the way you explain in the interview. In which method you are explaining, you are talking matters a lot. But majoritarily, we will be talking in a generic way. That is one of the reasons why we get rejected in the interviews. Right? If you are clear with the concept, if you are good at configuration, not enough. You need to have your own way of explanation. And you must be in a position to convince the other person with your explanation. If the other person is not able to understand, try to change, try to explain with an example. Do not repeat the same story, same configuration once again. Even if you repeat it 100 times, the person will still tell, no, I'm not clear, not convinced. Because you're not changing your explanation, you're only repeating your explanation. You have to change your explanation according to the other person. Do not play the same song for everybody. Change the song. And you must be in a position to understand how you have to convince the other person. In a minute or two, you will understand what kind of a questions your interviewer is asking and how you have to answer those questions. If you know how you're going to answer, if you're not aware how you're going to answer. Because the whole intention of your interview is to convince and then get selected. Correct?
Yes, sir.
The only point you have, the only thing that you have with you is your knowledge, your subject. Use your subject, use your knowledge in an accurate way, in a proper way. So it should not be the case that whoever is the person, I have the same answer. Change the answer according to the person. Explain in a different way. Try to convince, try to give different examples. In this, what will happen? The other person will come to know that yes, you are aware of the subject you are trying to explain, you are trying to communicate, not trying to read out the content what you have learned. Instead, you are trying to explain me with some practical scenarios, examples. So this attempt itself will make you get selected, because the person will easily come to know the way you're talking is something different. You're trying to explain me, you're trying to convince me. That is what people look from you, not the answers. Your answer need not be correct, but the way you are communicating, the way you are explaining me matters a lot. Clear? Any questions so far?
No, sir.
You're able to understand, right?
Yes, sir. You can follow.
All right. All right, then let me stop this recording. We'll continue this in the next session. Probably, I think the server is ready now, but let's continue in the next tomorrow's session. So we'll configure this BP related settings in the tomorrow's session. Let me stop this.